I'm back for this new special conversation. I'm here to welcome Professor Joon Baek, an associate professor and director of the DESIS Lab, so the Design for Social Innovation and Sustainability Lab at Yonsei University. Joon has also attended his PhD here at Politecnico di Milano at the design department, so he is one of our alumni. His research areas include design for social innovation and sustainability, service design, and nature-inspired design. So welcome, Joon. It's a pleasure to have you here, and thank you for having accepted our invitation. So how are you? How are you doing?
Well, thank you, Carlo, for inviting me and hosting me. Well, I'm doing all right. It's morning, and my daughter is now taking an online class in another room. It's night, although I don't see other people. I'm very glad to have an opportunity to talk about, SDGs and design.
So we have had a discussion a couple of hours ago, but to start our conversation, I'd like to start with an article that you did a couple of years ago in 2019 that was titled the Effect of Cultural Differences on a Distant Collaboration for Social Innovation. I mean, to me, it seems almost prophetic. I mean, we have experienced the pandemic, and then so this period of uncertainty has affected the way in which we collaborate. So my first question, like an icebreaker, is, okay, this distant collaboration has changed during this pandemic. Which are the perspective of our future collaboration?
It's interesting how 2 years ago, I had this collaboration with my partners in Myanmar, and we developed smart agricultural tools, especially the tools for measuring water in soil, sensors. And a group of students participated in this distant collaboration, and we learned many things. First of all, it's not easy to organize and run distant learning on social innovation. Well, first of all, because of this infrastructure, Myanmar doesn't have very fast internet, so the communication was sometimes interrupted, but also students had to stay in Korea, but learn about the farmers in Myanmar, how they practice farming and how they measure, water in soil. It was very difficult in a way to have this understanding of users from distance, and then so the user study was done by partners in Myanmar, and students use the data to come up with ideas, but this separation of user study and this developing ideas was a bit challenging to us.
This was
an interesting experience.
It was a real challenge, and according to our experience, so the experience that we have had during the 2020 pandemic in these months, okay, it's a real interesting point. Then going ahead, your statement is really interesting, and because it deals with the Sustainable Development Goals, and that are crucial goals for the future research and the actions of both researcher and designer. So, according to your experience, how can designers, both young designers and old designers, researchers, and so on, contribute in achieving these the 17 Sustainable Development Goals promoted by the United Nations?
Right. So, So before going into the discussion, I'd like to briefly, introduce the motivation of this topic. So I wasn't interested in SDGs until 2019, when I was involved in Sustainable Development Committee in Seoul Municipality, and there my role was to develop the local version of SDGs for Seoul Municipality, and also under each goal, we developed targets or sub-goals and indicators that is the measure, how to measure the performance, and also different projects that are implemented by the municipality to meet the targets and goals. And then I found it extremely interesting because I've been working on design for sustainability for many years, but I never thought about connecting SDGs with design projects for sustainability, even if SDGs are, I think, very important for sustainable development. So based on this experience of working at the committee, I tried to apply the same kind of approach of understanding sustainable development goals and targets and indicators. I shared this with students and asked students to come up with project ideas that can actually meet the existing goals, targets, and indicators. And I think this is my personal experience, but I assume that there are many design projects for sustainability which do not actively integrate SDGs with their endeavors, and design researchers and practitioners can try to connect SDGs with their own projects.
As we discussed, there is sometimes a problem in understanding and dealing with SDGs. I mean, we were dealing with the message that can be spread by the United Nations or from the policymakers and so on. But if you don't have the proper channels to spread it, sometimes the message cannot arrive to the interested individuals or community. So this is one of the problem we are facing. Maybe there are persons that are really interested in SDGs, but persons that are still interested, but maybe they are not included in the communication of the SDGs.
You are absolutely right. So when I introduce SDGs to my students, majority of them have never heard of SDGs, or they don't know what they are in depth. And I think this is another opportunity where designers can contribute. So designers have these abilities to communicate and disseminate ideas to people, and they can do the same to promote SDGs. For example, in one of my classes, students developed games that promote SDGs. So you can play board games, or you can play mobile games and entertain while you learn and explore different SDGs. But you can also use design knowledge and skills to promote SDGs in different ways.
So I mean, the designer can be also a translator of the SDGs, and so to let the wide range of people in order to understand the importance and maybe to promote actions among the wide range of the community. So this is really interesting, this double perspective of the design importance and the related action that can be done to promote the SDGs.
So actually, to follow up on what you have said, I'd like to introduce I'd like to show a couple of slides that show the result of how designers are promoting SDGs to citizens.
Okay.
It will take a few seconds.
It's always difficult to share the images when we are live streaming.
Right.
So okay,
But
here we are.
oh, now are you seeing it? Yeah. So
yes, there is a sort of workshop or focus group with users.
yeah.
We are.
So
Yes,
this is a workshop organized by Seoul Research Institute together with a design agency, and this is a workshop where Seoul citizens, representative of citizens, gathered and brainstormed new ideas to achieve SDGs by 2030. So what they did was they worked in group, and each group was assigned with an SDG, and they brainstormed new strategies, new metrics, indicators to achieve sustainable cities and communities, in this case, by 2030. And this is an example of students who developed games that promote SDGs for people. So very short example.
These examples are really interesting because they present the way in which you try to promote and foster the SDGs among the different kind of population involving, moreover, in this in the workshop you have presented different kind of person with different background, with different interest in SDGs. So this is also an important role of the designer. I mean, in driving co-design processes in which involve different kind of users and stakeholders.
Exactly. Yeah. So let's go on, please.
Oh, okay. No, and the other example is really interesting. So the way in which students, so a different kind of generation, has to understand and also present the SDG through a different kind of channel. So it's really interesting how they face this kind of problem. Here in Milan, we are now working on didactics in order to include the SDGs with students, so to let them aware of these kind of actions and goals, and also to let them propose something for dealing with the SDGs.
Fantastic. Yeah, I think we can kind of we can replicate these kind of workshops at didactic environment for sure. And I think one of the benefits of organizing this kind of didactic activities is that students not only have a better understanding of SDGs, but when they are engaged in developing strategies and metrics to meet SDGs, they get this kind of ownership, and this participation of activities can last and have an influence on subsequent projects that they are involved.
Yeah, crystal clear. And may I ask you, what about the cultural differences? I mean, we were discussing about different people, like with different ages. I mean, researcher and students. So different background, different ages, and so on. But what about the cultural differences in order to understand and make use of the SDGs?
Well, I haven't tried organizing this kind of workshops with people from different nationalities. But as far as I understand from my examples, even in among Korean people, there are different people with different value systems, different backgrounds, and different problems. So, for example, when you organize a workshop with people of different age groups, each age group has very different political agendas and priorities, and they have very different ideas about their impact on the environment. And through conversation that with people from different age groups, different backgrounds, we get to understand different perspectives better. For example, in South Korea, society is aging very fast, and young people are concerned and worried about their increasing responsibility to support this fast aging population. On the other hand, the older generation somehow feel isolated and kind of pushed back in important discussion in society. So these different groups have different value systems and priorities, and how to bring them together and allow them to collaborate to promote and implement SDGs is something that designers can do, and also the important maybe research and practice agendas.
There is another point that when dealing with SDGs, we have to think that they are really intertwined. So we are not facing just one SDG at a time, but we are dealing with different kind of SDGs that can affect each other. So I mean, we have to deal with different kind of perspective given by the users, but also with the different relation that each SDGs has with the other one. So we have
Absolutely.
to use a sort of an holistic approach in dealing with SDGs.
Right. So SDGs are somehow connected. And Carlo, you told me about your research yesterday, and you are working on, this developing wearable devices to monitor health of teenagers and elderly people. But
Yes.
this health and well-being is also connected to education, right? So how to education on how to, control your diet and how to make a healthy living.
Yes, we deal with an approach in which we try to foster the health and well-being status of people, dealing with a multi-domain approach. So dealing with the physical domain, with the cognitive domain, with the dietary habits domain, and so on. So because all these domains are strictly related, and so you cannot face one domain at a time. So you have to have an integrated approach dealing with the different domains that affect our health, our behavior, and so on. And then there is also the another aspect, that is the way in which we translate the technology to let the user make use of it. So this is also another point, but this is maybe something that is more something that is that design has already faced. I mean, the way in which we have to translate technology to let user make use of it.
Right. So actually, that is a very interesting point, how technologies can work for SDGs. Actually, if you search ICT for SDG, there are a bunch of different good examples and ideas in which how technologies contribute to achieving SDGs. But this is also an important kind of issue for designers, because when I, as a design educator and researcher, tried to integrate SDGs with my design projects, I realized how important it is to scale up my projects in order to have even a marginal impact on achieving SDGs. And one of the strategies to scale up your design project is technologies. But of course, there are other strategies like developing businesses or working with policymakers. But technologies is something that you can use, and technologies allow designers to quantify and show in a very transparent way how your design makes an impact. So, actively using technologies in design projects allow your projects to scale up and also have a greater impact.
Then we can deal with different kind of technology. I mean, with something that is more tangible and physical, and maybe it's something that is not so, it is intangible, maybe digital or virtual. So we have different shades in which we can interpret and design the technology.
Exactly.
Then there is also a different kind of users maybe are more interested in different kind of technology and design languages in which it is translated. So I mean, this is also another point. Then going ahead, since you have done your PhD here in Italy, so you have experienced part of this is part of your cultural background, let me say. And so you said this morning that your supervisor of the PhD was a Professor Ezio Manzini. So since you have chosen the second cluster, in which you say, okay, exploring new research fields, I have a question. So, I mean, what is the relationship with the great masters, in this case, Ezio Manzini? So, I mean, we are dealing and facing the SDGs. You are an associate professor, so you are at a certain level of your academic career. So you have, I mean, you have two different sides. You can look at the future, but also you have an important past and a relation with Ezio Manzini. So how this cultural background affect your research today and in the next future?
Well, on my opportunity to work with Ezio changed the direction of my career. So when I decided to work with Ezio, I was originally interested in sustainable product service system, which Ezio has worked for many years. But when I actually when I met Ezio for the first time and told him, I want to study sustainable PSS, he said he is no longer working on it. Instead, he changed his research topic to social innovation. So I have never heard of social innovation before, but I somehow became involved in this topic, and that is how I've been working on design for social innovation for the past almost 20 years. And Ezio has recently emphasized the importance of ecological sustainability in social innovation. He's increasingly concerned about the climate crisis and also how our environment is facing catastrophe, and that he urges that designers who work on social innovation should pay more attention to ecological sustainability. And this is one of the reasons why I somehow feel more responsible that we have to be more actively adopting SDGs in design projects on social innovation.
Okay, it's really clear, and okay, it's interesting how the how Axios change your point of view and gives you the opportunity of dealing with a new research field. So it's really interesting, this point. So since as we have only a few minutes away from the end of our talk, may I ask you if you want to share something, to leave a message for the near future students and designers and researchers that are facing this global and situation and the near future challenges. So to let them identifying the very first stages of their route in this foreseeing their future.
Right. So I would say that our young generation is probably the first generation that face this urgent and very important moment of change when it comes to this sustainable, I mean, the environmental problems and the urgent need for sustainable development. But also they are probably the last generation who can actually respond to these challenges, because as we all know, we don't have much time. So yeah, it is their opportunity and also responsibility. And I would say designers should not only be good at coming up with good ideas, but they should also be very serious about how to scale up their ideas, how to implement their ideas and scale up ideas. And I, as an educator, kind of feel that I should emphasize this designers' abilities to implement and scale up their ideas. So yeah, that's what I want to say.
We have also the responsibility to give them proper tools, methodology to face this opportunity, the opportunity of change. So we still have this great responsibility to give them proper methods, tools to develop new strategies for facing these global challenges.
Yeah, definitely, that is our responsibility. Yes.
Okay, no, it's really it was really interesting conversation, and I really appreciate the way in which you envision our near future activities and related to both the education path of young researcher and designer, but also the activities and the actions that we have to still make in this time. So thank you for
yes, just one more thing. So Carlo, when you talked about this cultural aspect of SDGs, I think maybe it's a good idea to kind of organize a collaboration between your institute and my institute, among students, to understand SDGs and harnessing SDGs in their design project. I think that would be a good experience to share different perspectives culturally and also.
Yes, for sure. I think it's a really a good idea. So thank you, Joon. It was a really interesting conversation, and I hope we can start working together. So for now, take care, and I hope to see you soon and to be in contact with you as soon as possible. Thanks.
Thank you very much for running the conversation, Carlo, and goodbye to everyone.
Thank you, John.